Hello and welcome to this lesson about angles of parallel lines. Today we are going to talk about parallel lines and the angles they form, and we're going to talk about which ones are congruent and which ones are not congruent, which ones maybe are supplementary, so that way we know how to solve problems that involve angles. So what I just did is use my ruler to make two parallel lines, and now I am going to take my ruler and randomly make another line. Now, this line right here is called the transversal. It is a line that cuts through two parallel lines. And what it does is it creates a bunch of different angles. And for ease, we're just going to number them instead of labeling them with a bunch of letters. So we're going to call them angles 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And this leads us to the thing we're going to talk about, which are the types of angles that we have here. The first type of angles that we're going to talk about are called corresponding angles. Now, a corresponding angle, that refers to something that's on top of something, or it's in the same position. I mean, that's the best way to think about it. Corresponding means it matches the same position. So, for example, 6 and 2 are corresponding angles because they are both in the top right-hand corner. In the top left-hand corner, you have angle 5 and angle 1. Those are also corresponding angles. And corresponding angles are going to be congruent, which means they are the same. So angle 6 will have the same measure as angle 2, and angle 1 will have the same measure as angle 5. Our next angle that we're going to talk about, called alternate interior. Alternate interior. Now, if we take a second and think about what these words mean, it's going to be rather obvious what it is. So alternate means it's switching sides. It's alternating between left and right, or up and down, however you want to think about it. And then interior means it's inside. So if we take a look at maybe something like angle 3 and angle 6 are going to be alternate interior. They are on alternate sides of the line, but they're inside the parallel lines. So it's inside. So that's interior. And again, these are going to be congruent. They're going to be the same. And if we think about it, we know that angle 6 and angle 2 are corresponding and they're congruent. And then by vertical angles, angle 3 and angle 2 are going to be the same. So it just makes sense that angle 3 and angle 6 are going to be congruent. And in fact, they're also going to be congruent with angle 7. Similarly, angle 5 is going to have an alternate interior angle to angle 4, and those are going to be congruent. The next one we're going to talk about is alternate exterior. So, similar idea. Alternate exterior. Again, these are going to be congruent, and as you would imagine, they're going to be on the opposite sides, but outside. Oh, actually, let's make this a box. Make this a box, so that way they all have the same shape. There we go. So 1 and 8 are going to be congruent. 7 and 2 are going to be congruent. They're alternate or exterior angles. They're on the outside of the parallel lines, but they have the same angle measure. And then the final one that we're going to talk about is called same side interior. Same side interior. Now, this one switches things up a little bit. For these, we're talking about angles 4 and 6 or angle 5 and 3. What this is, the sum of the angle measures has to equal 180 degrees. And the way we get that is 5 and 6 are on the same plane, so they're going to be on the same line. They have to be supplementary. Use alternate interior angles. 5 is congruent to 4, and so 5 plus 6 is equal to 180, and 4 and 5 are the same. 6 plus 4 also has to equal 180. And so in a nutshell, these are the different types of lines or angles that we have from parallel lines. You have corresponding, alternate interior, alternate exterior. All three of those are congruent. And then you have same side interior, in which when you add these guys up, the angle sum has to be 180 degrees. And so now what we're going to do is swap out this and take a look at some examples. And we're going to have this sort of be our template. So we're going to reuse these angles over and over again for each problem, just to kind of talk about what it is we have. But anyways, first example, the measure of angle 5 is equal to 65 degrees. What is the measure of angle 1? Well, let's take a look at where is angle 5, right there. Where is angle 1? How would we describe these? So angle 5 and angle 1 are corresponding angles. And so since they're corresponding angles, they have to be congruent. The fancy math symbol is that for that, by the way. So therefore, the measure of angle 1 is going to equal 65 degrees. Next problem. Let's look at the measure of angle, or number 2. Measure of angle 3 is 110 degrees. What is a measure of angle 2? So 3 and 2 are right here. These don't fall into the category of alternate interior, alternate exterior, or anything like that. These are just simply vertical angles. And vertical angles are congruent. Oops, that's how I do congruent. This is how I do it. And so therefore, the measure of angle 2 equals 110 degrees. Likewise, we could also say that the measure of angle 6 and the measure of angle 7 are also going to be equal to 110 degrees because of alternate interior angles and corresponding angles. Finally, number 3. Let's find the measure of angle 5 when the measure of angle 5 is 3x and the measure of angle 3 is equal to 6x. So for this one, let's take a look at where 3 and 5 are. 3 and 5 are on the interior and on the same side. So they are same side interior, which means that they have to equal 180 degrees. And so the measure of angle 5 plus the measure of angle 3 has to equal 180. I will now substitute these expressions I was given, 3x and 6x. So 3x plus 6x equals 180. I'm going to continue my work over here. 3x plus 6x is 9x equals 180. Divide by 9, divide by 9, x will equal 20. Now that's an answer to or part of the answer, but it's not asking what's the value of x, it's asking find the measure of angle 5. Well, measure of angle 5 was 3x, so we'll go 3 times 20, and that is equal to 60 degrees. And there we go. That is how we end up finding these angle measures, by using some of these properties. We have to be familiar with the terminology and what is equal to what. Once you know that, all you need is one of the angle measures and you're able to find everything else. Good luck.